free agency frenzy. It is going to be a free agency frenzy for real. Every year we say this. Every year you got legal tampering that starts tomorrow. You're going to start finding out who agrees to what. They're agreeing to terms. They can't sign contracts till Wednesday, but we're going to start seeing some of these names and some of these deals get done and who's agreeing to what these deals are. Who's getting paid and where they're going. That starts tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. But before we get into that, hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Today's video is going to be some expectations versus reality. I'm going to be talking about some Giants players that are free agents that could come back. I'm going to be talking about some players out there in the market that a lot of people are targeting for the New York Giants. But even before we get into that, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you're a New York Giants fan the way that I'm a New York Giants fan, bleed blue through and through, true, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Also, you see the hat? I tell no lies. Hyatt is open. Go ahead and cop that hat. It's in the store. You can find a link down below as well. Hyatt is open. Also got some bleed blue hats that are available too. Go ahead and check that out. But okay, when you think about free agency, when I think about free agency and I think about the New York Giants, the main thing that I'm thinking about is offensive line in the trenches when I'm talking about free agency. We could talk about wide receivers, quarterbacks, this, that, and the third. We could talk about that during the draft, in those draft breakdown videos. But right now, we're talking about free agency. And for me and a lot of other people, you have to address the offensive line in free agency. We've seen how we've picked offensive linemen in the draft, and it hasn't worked out for us. So we might have to go the free agency route. We just might have to do that for a change, right? And we've done that before too, and we haven't had the best luck at that as well. But when I'm looking at these current free agents that are coming into the market now, the number one name on everybody's list as far as Giants fans is a Winwoo out of New England. That's the number one target for the New York Giants. People are saying that, and I'm agreeing with it. You have to target a Winwoo. And I got my notes like I do. You guys know I keep the notes here because I don't like to forget things. I like to write things down so I can get these thoughts out clearly. So a Winwoo from the Patriots, 26 years old, has experience playing guard and tackle. Now for the New York Giants, will he be a guard or a tackle? That depends on a few things. What kind of money he's looking for. If he's looking for guard money, that's one thing. If he's looking for tackle money, that's another thing. We'll see what happens with that. But right now, when I was using SpotRack as a reference, and I know SpotRack is not always on point when it comes to market values and things like that, but as a guard, they have him with a market value of $13.6 million on a 4-year deal. So 13.6 per. When I'm thinking about a Winwoo and his value, and also the possibility of him being a tackle instead of a guard, you're probably going to look at $15-16 million. And I know that seems like a lot of money. And to me, yes, it seems like a lot of money. And for this year, 2024, it is a lot of money. But when you put on your future cap and you look forward toward 2025 and you see how much cap space is possibly there in 2025, there's ways that you can work these deals where Joe Shane is looking at this free agency probably entirely different than the way New York Giants fans are looking at it. Because we're looking, not all of us, some of us are looking at it, okay, it's about 2024, how much cap space we have here. Not thinking how you can manipulate these contracts so you have low cap hits in the first year, then, those cap hits pick up as the salary cap increases, or when we have more money. So yeah, Winwoo can absolutely work even at that 15, 16, 17 number because of the kind of cap space the New York Giants have, in the future. Especially when you're not looking for any more big free agent signings, like Kayvon Thibodeau that might come up in another 2-3 years. Xavier McKinney, depends on how that gets done. So the New York Giants can actually shop a little bit above the cap space that they have right now because of the way they can manipulate these cap hits and stuff like that and move some money around. So right after a Winwoo, I'm looking at Robert Hunt from Miami. Robert Hunt from Miami, way less. Cost you way less than, not way less than a Winwoo. So right now, the market value on Robert Hunt guard, 27 years old, is about $11.8 million per on a 4-year contract. Now, to me, he is not the same caliber player as a Winwoo, but Robert Hunt, because of that price tag, makes it a lot more flexible. Maybe you can work with it a little bit more with everything else you have going on. And when I say everything else you have going on, let's talk about two people. First person is going to be Saquon Barkley. Second person is going to be Xavier McKinney. Now, I believe that Saquon Barkley is gone. I believe that. And I said it in the previous video. There's other teams that can play that luxury tax for Saquon Barkley. When I look at the New York Giants, it does not make sense for the New York Giants to pay more than $8 million for Saquon Barkley. And in all reality, I don't want to pay more than $6 to $8 million for the whole running back room, if I'm going to be totally honest with myself. But I know how people feel about Saquon Barkley. Now, when it comes to Xavier McKinney, I absolutely want Xavier McKinney back. I believe that there's a handshake deal between Xavier McKinney, his group, and the New York Giants, where you go out there, do the work, find out what your price is, and then bring that number back to see if the New York Giants can match it or beat it. And if we can't, obviously Xavier McKinney is gone. But I'm not scared of Xavier McKinney leaving yet. We'll find out tomorrow, because he's one of those big name guys that you might see go first. But the only thing I think will hold that back is Antoine Winfield. He gets the tag from Tampa Bay. I think he's the safety that sets the market for all of the other safeties. And I don't see him signing that tag right away. If they're trying to work a deal, fine. But I think that if you don't see Xavier McKinney back with the Giants, you're probably going to see him out there in free agency. But you're probably still waiting to see on what Antoine Winfield signs for, depending on it. Like I said, that's just one of the factors. But going back to the trenches, going back to the offensive line, another name that's out there. So I talked about Winwoo. I talked about Robert Hunt. Jonah Jackson is the other guy from the Lions. Now, Jonah Jackson, 27 years old, just like Robert Hunt, has some good experience playing some good ball, and is still a cheaper option than a Winwoo. Again, you're not looking at the same production. Maybe not. Depends on how we put this line together. But Jonah Jackson is another guy that I'm looking at as far as these trenches go on the offensive side. Now, a little later in this video, I am going to talk about some Giants that could re-sign, this year. Because we're talking about the offensive line, I will mention one of those names. And one of those names is Ben Bredeson. And I see your face. I already know. I see your face. You don't bring back Ben Bredeson with the intentions of him being the starter. You bring him back for quality depth, whether it be as a backup center, as a swing guard. That should be the role of a guy like Ben Bredeson, not penciled in as your starter. And I think because we threw him in the role of a starter, people are down on him because, again, he should not be your starter. He should not be your starter. He just ended up being the best option at guard with the guys that we have on the roster, which is management's fault. That's Joe Shane. He's in charge of what the roster looks like, and that's his fault for not having better options than Ben Bredeson on the team. But if you get a guy like a Winwoo or Robert Hunt or Jonah Jackson, Ben Bredeson is not going to be your starter. We have some other guards on the team. We do have Marcus McKeithen. We do have Joshua Zudu. But the jury's out on those guys. And can you pencil those guys in as well? No. Josh Zudu can't stay healthy. He's playing out of position. We damaged him as much as he's damaged himself. Marcus McKeithen tore his ACL the first year, came back, looked like the 6th round pick that he was, or 5th round pick that he was. And it's like, okay, it's time to move on with certain players. And then the last guy I'm going to round off this list for the trenches on the offensive side is going to be Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis, I think, is another quality guy out of Seattle. 26 years old, probably be 27 by the time the season starts. You're looking at a $7.4 million hit in a 2-year contract. So again, as the price tag goes down, the quality of the player goes down. But again, these guys are still a step above of what we have right now. So you can't really rule out these guys. Now, moving on to straight tackles. We talked about a Winwoo possibly being a tackle and a guard mix. You have Illuminor from the Raiders. Older guy, 29 years old, never really made a lot of money. He's played for, I believe, 4 different teams. He was with the Ravens for a little bit. Obviously, he was with the Raiders, and I forget what other team he played with. I think it was either 3 or 4 teams that he played for already. Never made a lot of money. Coming off a pretty good season, and you could probably get him for cheap. Again, this is not who you're aiming for as far as he's more like a consolation. If you can't get a Winwoo, go ahead and get a Luminor. Let him battle with Evan Neal, just like any one of these guys. If you're going to bring in a tackle, they're going to battle with Evan Neal to be the starter. And I'm not mad at a guy like Luminor. Another name on the list might get re-signed, just coming off his 5th-year option, is Jonah Williams, Roll Tide. You know I got to put these Bama players on here with the Bengals. He's just a name. Price tag is kind of high at $10 million, but he's a tackle. That's what the market is. Just another option to throw out there because I didn't want to leave a Luminor by himself right now. All right, now switching to the defensive side. And again, please let me know in the comments down below what you guys think as well about some of these names. And go ahead, if I don't mention the name that you guys are looking for, go ahead and put that in the comments down below too. Now, switching over to the cornerback position. Obviously, the New York Giants have a scheduled visit with Darius Williams from the Jags. I was looking up his market value, 30 years old. Okay, so he's an older guy. You put him in here because you might be losing. Adoree Jackson probably won't be back. And you're gonna lose a veteran presence in the locker room. You know, it's a young room outside of Adoree Jackson. So you still need some veteran presence. At least I believe that you still need some veteran presence, especially if you also lose Xavier McKinney, a leader in the secondary, even though he's not a cornerback. But Darius Williams visiting the Giants today. We'll see what happens with that. He's open or free to sign right now. We don't have to wait till Wednesday to sign him. I'm curious to see what the reports are, you know, a little bit later on today, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have some reports on that. Outside of that, Sean Bunting from the Tennessee Titans, I mentioned them in the previous video, is familiar with our new DC, Shane Bowen. Came out of that system. I think that's a plus for him. Also, he's talented, hasn't reached his peak yet. Possibly, we don't know if we've seen the best of him yet. Sean Bunting is 26 years old, coming off of his rookie contract. Market value for him, $6.7 million on like a 2-year deal. I think that's a good cheap option. When you got Darius Williams, they're looking at like 12 per for his deal, and then you have Sean Bunting at 6 per. You have to start really thinking about things. Again, 2 different caliber of players, but again, you're banking on upside. You're banking on can this person grow within the team? And when you're looking at a 30-year-old cornerback, you know the wall is right around the corner somewhere. Then another guy, again, mention him since we're already talking about the cornerback room, Adoree Jackson. Will the New York Giants bring back Adoree Jackson? Is Adoree Jackson good for the cornerback room? Now, I do believe he's good for the room. And if he can come back on a friendly deal, I will sign him. But the market value right now for Adoree Jackson is over $10 million. And it's like, you already need to sign a guard, the trenches. You know, I'm going to talk about edge and probably right after this. You also have to look at the edge spot. Can you really throw, you know, double digits as far as millions of dollars go to another cornerback that's, you know, almost 30, will be 30 by the season starts? Do you really want to do that? And that same thing goes for Darius Williams as well. Do you really want to pay that kind of money? And again, this is market value off a spot rack. You know, not always the most reliable, but just gives you kind of an idea of what those numbers might be. Okay. Now, I'm not going to talk about safety because it's all about Xavier McKinney. We should bring him back. I'll leave it at that. Now, let's talk about the edge room. Now, you got the big names out there. You got Brian Burns, who's probably going to be a tag and trade. Probably going to cost you like $30 million because of what we know that he turned down what the Panthers were offering. You're looking at that like $30 million, but he's young. He's going to be sitting. He's still ascending. He can get even. He has room to grow and get better. Do you want to spend $30 million on Brian Burns? I don't want to spend $30 million on Brian Burns. I know. Why are you holding on to so much money? I understand why we have to spend this money, yes, but I'd rather spend this money in different areas. Spread that money around on quality players instead of betting on a guy that might possibly be a superstar, but we're not quite sure yet. Because Brian Burns is not top 5 when it comes to edges. He's not top 5. And when you ask for $30 million, you need to be top 5. We already went through this with Leonard Williams. And speaking of Leonard Williams, he's another guy that could possibly be a guy that comes back, but whatever. Now, also, I think the main target for New York Giants fans is Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff from the Jets. Another guy coming off of his rookie contract, 25 years old. And the market value for Bryce Huff, I don't believe this is, it's 9.2. I think he's going to ask for substantially more than that. You're probably looking at Bryce Huff in like the $12 million range, 4-year deal. And here's the thing, he only played 42% of the snaps for the Jets last year, but he has some production. He might not have all of the measurables that people like, short arms, this, that, and the third, but he is productive. And if you can get him at a good deal, I absolutely put him, opposite side of Kayvon Thibodeau. I would do something like that. But Bryce Huff, high on the list. We'll see what happens in the next few days. Hopefully, he's a guy that Joe Schoen has actually targeted. We don't have any rumors yet. AJ Espinoza is a personal pick for me. Again, a guy that didn't live up to his draft pick. He was a second rounder. Didn't live up to that in Buffalo, but last year was his best year. And obviously he's on an expiring contract, and he's not going to cost you a line of money, but he also gives you the versatility of hand in the dirt versus standing up. He gives you that, and then you're not really looking at him as, okay, I have AJ Espinoza, I'm not going to draft the edge early or in day 2. But if you get a guy like Bryce Huff, you're probably not going to go edge, in the early rounds, day 1, day 2. You're probably not going to do that if you have Bryce Huff. But if you have AJ Espinoza, you can still go with a higher draft pick, higher value draft pick at edge if you have AJ Espinoza, if you pick him up, because nobody's going to bat an eye with that, because there's no expectations of AJ Espinoza being the solidified starter next to Kayvon Thibodeau, but he can be a guy that's a rotational piece, and he's only going to cost you about $5-6 million. I think he probably even cost you even less than that. Probably looking at him at like the 4 to 6 range, but closer to that 4 side as far as millions per. And it could be a 1-year deal, it could be a 2-year deal with AJ Espinoza, because he's still trying to prove himself. Because again, he didn't get the kind of he didn't have the kind of results that he should have had as a second round pick. And then a name that was brought to my attention yesterday, I was on the stream with Big Blue in the Bronx, was Josh Uche was a name that he had mentioned. And I looked at Uche and I'm like, okay, guy's young, 25 years old. Spot Track got his market value at $8.5 million, 2-year deal. I can do that. I can see that. I can really see Josh Uche, being one of those quality guys, kind of like the same role as AJ Espinoza, but a little bit more. So if you're looking at Bryce Huff and you're looking at AJ Espinoza, he's kind of in the middle between those two. So I like what I'm seeing with Josh Uche. That's a name that we can look at and really think about. And then the last part I want to talk about is some players that might come back for the New York Giants. Isaiah Simmons, Ben Bredesen, who I talked about, Ashawn Robinson, Adoree Jackson, Nick McLeod, Tyrod Taylor, and Matt Pert are those names of those Giants that could possibly get re-signed and come back for the New York Giants. So that's going to be my video. I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. You see the hats, go grab one. Hyatt is open. Why? Because Hyatt was open. Let's go.